Welcome, Solarah here. I hope you guys are all doing well today. Welcome if you are visiting me here for the first time. If you are drawn to the subject matter, I invite you to chill out and stay and see if you're vibing with me. And if you're not vibing with me, that's fine too. I will always say to you guys that you should not stay in places where you are not divinely aligned. So if you have a problem with someone and the message they're delivering, whether it is that you don't like the way they do it, there's just something about them you don't like, or you think you know more than them, whatever the reason is, it's an act of self-love to remove yourself from that energy. There's no need to frustrate our souls unnecessarily. We're walking into peaceful pastures now, and we are choosing to entertain and surround ourselves only with energies and beings who feed that peaceful narrative that we deserve. We all deserve it. I don't care if you don't like me. I really don't. You deserve peace. We all deserve peace. So if you're not rocking with me, please, just respectfully leave, and it's all cool. Every one of us will get the messages we need to ascend, whether it's from me, internally, other beings. The messages are widely available, so there's no need to ever cling to anyone, okay? So yes, welcome. Welcome if you're returning. If you're returning and you're a subscriber, thank you for being here. Thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for being patient with me through this this passageway that's just felt a little bit torrential. I know y'all have felt it. I felt it very personally this time around, and I had to kind of remove myself a little bit from all of the YouTube exposure. It was just too much for me with what it was that I had to transmute personally. So I thank you for those of you who are still here and rocking with me. So today, announcements. There are 3 new additions on my Ko-Fi shop for those of you who are interested. I have a solar plexus recovery decree, a spiritual warfare manual or guide, and the full 2024 Ascension report. It's a 34-page report that I wrote at the beginning of the year about the energies for the year ahead as I channeled them. So that is also available on my Ko-Fi shop. You can find me on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/Solarah. If you would like to support me and my art, my craft, my messages, this channel, you can also do that through Ko-Fi and also through my PayPal link, which is in the description box below. They'll both be. If you've been with me for a moment, you know I do not do the ads. I do not do any of that stuff that has me drawn into partnerships or alliances with energies that don't match my vibe. Okay, so if you would like to support me outside of that, those would be the avenues through which you can do that, through Ko-Fi and through PayPal. I'm also on Substack. I'm now on substack.com/@Solarah. You can find me over there. I write Daily Alchemy there. I publish some of my more memoir type writing, poetry. I am a writer first and foremost, so I introduce a lot of my own art and craft over there, as well as audio messages from time to time. Everything is there to facilitate my expression, but really for the collective, your ability to be supported through ascension. So like I said in yesterday's video, when I slow down, or if I slow down on YouTube, you can always find me posting quite regularly over on my Substack, because writing comes easily to me. It's something I always do, even through the densities. So please avail yourself of the messages there. There's a lot of free content there for my paying subscribers. You have a Q&A coming up. If you're interested, a group Q&A coming up on February the 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who are interested who may not be on Substack, I am beginning to offer these monthly Q&As to my patrons over there. So you know, that might be an incentive to join. And if it's not, if Substack's not the platform for you, it's not for everyone, I get it. I will be opening up Q&A opportunities in the future that will be probably based upon certain topics and themes. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty? Okay, so today, what do I want to talk to you about? Well, I was finishing up my daily alchemy for today, and I was just meditating and chilling, and all of a sudden I was feeling like it's time to break down and explain something here. And what I really wanted to talk to you guys about today is timeline jumping. Okay, there's so much out there in the spiritual community about timeline jumping and how your new timeline is here, and there's a lot of, you know, lingo around this that many people don't take the time to explain. And I want to thank Carrie Bancroft, who is over on Substack, for voicing and articulating this truth. The reason I began Solarah Speaks, and I was explaining this to her after she responded to one of my articles last week, where I began to explain some of the timeline collapsing we've been living through. She thanked me for breaking it down in a practical way. And the reason I started Solarah Speaks was because, well, one of the reasons was because when I first began my ascension journey, there was a lot of, barriers to my going farther based upon, gatekeeping is really what it is. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's still there. Like, a lot of beings love to throw these statements out to their collectives without taking the time to educate. And for some people, it's because they don't think about it. It's so a part of their reality now that they just assume everybody knows. And for other beings, it really is a way of trying to seem superior to other people and to have knowledge about things and to be able to do things that other people can't do. And I don't like that, because we're all on equal footing where it comes to the ability to do these things. Some of us have greater strengths in that area, absolutely, but it's something that we all can do, and not that we all can do, we all are doing constantly. I need you to understand and overstand you are constantly timeline jumping, okay? You are timeline jumping every single second of the day when you make a decision. You are choosing what timeline you are going to align with in accordance with your mental and your emotional energies, the decision you make, and what you choose to materially put your energy towards to build. That is a constant thing you're doing in your waking life. Okay, so we're constantly choosing timelines, but we've been doing it a lot of the time unconsciously. So this is where things are shifting, because as you come back into your power and you realize you've always had this ability to create a reality and to timeline jump, quote unquote, you get a lot of your own personal autonomy and authority back. So today I want to explain a little bit, and then I probably will go into the cards and see how Spirit wants to speak if I have some time at the end. If I get carried away with this subject as I channel, I might not go into cards. We'll just see where Spirit leads us, okay? But timelines are constantly collapsing, and they're collapsing in accordance with what we're choosing, what we're picking and choosing to believe and apply our energy to. What we choose to pull our energy back from collapses. Okay, now the reason why this is so magnified right now in Ascension is because we are dealing with the collective collapse of timelines from all of the ages dating back to the previous golden age. And what is a timeline collapse? A timeline collapse is when a timeline, a story, a narrative, a way of being and doing that was once upon a time supported by people or beings, directing their energy towards keeping it alive. When that energy is no longer being directed and keeping that timeline or that story, narrative, and cycle alive, it collapses. And what we've been doing as a collective is, as we've healed and come and have learned how to come back into alignment, deeper alignment with our truth, we have been taking our energy back. We've been doing it consciously, but it's also been happening unconsciously. We've been taking back our energy from timelines and situations that were robbing us and keeping us imprisoned in realities that aren't in alignment with our truth. So the more we align with truth, the more we take back our energy from the timelines that were siphoning our energy and keeping us from living in truth. Okay, now you can imagine, because we're shifting in ages and there's so many other things that are happening to help us do this, planetarily speaking, socially speaking, solar flares. There's so much stuff that is happening right now to help shift us into this new age. So because we are collectively in this place of waking up to our authentic truth, we are starving these energies that once upon a time kept us collectively living alive. And because we're doing that, the timelines that supported those energies and stories and narratives and cycles being alive, they're crashing. They're collapsing. So a good example of this is the recent full moon in Leo. Okay, I talked about this. The full moon in Leo happened, I think, I'm recording this on Thursday, February the 15th, so it was about I think today makes it 3 weeks ago, okay? The full moon in Leo occurred 3 weeks ago, and it was a big one for clearing because of where we are in ascension and what the Leo energy in medicine is assisting us in doing in this shift, based upon the connections we have to the previous golden age of Leo. Okay, so if you've been rolling with me for a while, you'll know that I spoke about this at the beginning of the year, and if you're interested in reading on this farther, this is what is in the 2024 Full Ascension Report. It breaks down the full numerology of the year with both the major arcana and minor arcana representations in the tarot. Okay, so the numerology for this year, it is a number 8 year, right? 224 breaks down to 8. And 8, when you look at it in the tarot, well, first and foremost, 8 speaks of cycles. It speaks of that infinity loop. So we're already seeing that something is occurring here, and the infinity loop is broken. Okay, the thing that kept us going around and around in circles, around and around ourselves in karmic loops, it has been broken for all who want to align themselves with their own truth and do the necessary soul work to clear the programming and the conditioning that still aligns us with, with those cycles, meaning the ways we think and feel about ourselves and the world are very much connected to how we move forward or get stuck in loops. So for those of us who have been doing the hard work of realigning how we think, how we feel, how we react, how we live, how we exist, how we move in our own personal lives and in the world, we're breaking out of that loop. But there are other beings who are, it's business as usual. And unfortunately, those timelines that supported that are collapsing. So they're creating brand new timelines with that energy. But because the old timelines have collapsed, there are 2 different camps that are existing, like that 8 on the side. And so what is happening is there's this fission energy where there is a division of worlds that is occurring that I've spoken about in in the videos for the beginning of the year. Now, in order for these 2 worlds to become independent, the timelines that kept this one world state where we were living in such abject dysfunction, and so many of us are moving away from that now, those timelines must collapse. Now, what occurred in the full moon in Leo was we had a grand, avalanche of timelines collapsing at once. And so many of us, the way you will experience many timelines collapsing in your reality is that many of the themes that you may have overcome or have been a challenge in your life, the stories that have been part of the karmic cycles and the loops in which you were stuck, they will start to present themselves in very magnified form in your life. Sometimes they materialize, and sometimes you just feel it in your mental and emotional body. So I want to give you an example of this so you get what I'm saying when I'm talking about this, because what you experience when the timelines collapse and you're living through that is what you can call timeline bleed through, where things of the past, things that were challenges or things that you think you overcame, you'll start to question and doubt it because those energies all of a sudden flood into your reality, whether it's mental, emotional, or whether it, like I said, it materializes into circumstances that put you back into that place. Now, what's really important to understand and overstand is that the matrix is a box of mirrors. You are not living in real time in the matrix. You are living in a time lag, meaning that as above, so below. What has occurred above, or etherically and spiritually, will then play itself out materially. So I hope this makes sense. So although we experience it like it's real, it feels real. I'm never going to take that away from anyone because I went through literal, like having to go through hell, reliving some of these timelines mentally and emotionally, but I knew what was going on. I knew I had to just let it pass. I knew I had to observe it and witness it because it's not part of my reality anymore. It's part of the destruction and the debris that had to leave as a result of the timelines collapsing. And the only way those timelines would come back to life is if I grabbed a hold of those energies and I went for a run with them. So, for example, when the full moon in Leo hit, I, as a being from the beginning, I have been here, and we all have different ways of clearing collective energies. One of the ways that my energy field has been used in Ascension from the time I entered this planet is I'm here to clear out certain energies that have to do with self-rejection and even the suicidal templates in the matrix that have caused many beings to want to take their lives under the weight of the trauma. And as such, that began to manifest in my life as a child. Yes, it was circumstantial also, but it began to manifest in my life when at the age of 6, I first tried to take my life. Okay? I didn't realize what I was experiencing at that time was a purging of those templates. And I've experienced that as Ascension grew and became more of a reality, that became more of a grip in my life. And it took me hostage for a very long time. In my late teens and early 20s, I was fixated with unaliving myself. Okay, and it took me a very long time to see and to understand and to understand energy and cycles and how and why that would come up. Because in the past couple of years, I've had those energies come into my reality, and I began to realize these are not my thoughts. These are not my feelings. These are, for one thing, that because you're dealing with a lot of things here. This is where it gets very confusing. So on the one hand, I was dealing with other people's projections. I was dealing with other people's desires towards me, like that I would off myself. But I was also dealing with the collective purging of those. Because as we go through things personally, especially as, quote unquote, light workers, shadow workers, starseeds, whatever fucking label you want to give yourself as a divine being, as we go through these things and we alchemize them for ourselves, we are doing it for the collective. Okay, so in this recent full moon in Leo, those themes were coming up again. And I've come too far on my own personal journey, and I know that those themes are no longer active in my life. And so I knew, okay, timelines are collapsing. And when timelines collapse, it's like a whole bunch of movies and stories that once upon a time were able to exist, they fall onto the cutting floor. And as they fall onto the cutting floor, you are watching those movies and you are drawn into them as if it's real time. But in order to timeline jump, in order to even not even timeline jump in that situation. In that situation, it's like, let's just hold on to the timeline I'm already on, okay? We don't have to jump right now. Let's just stay steady in the truth of who I am, how far I've come, where it is I am right now, so I don't get dragged into holding on to a timeline that is ready to die completely and to be transformed. Okay, so again, the only way when you're going through a colossal timeline collapse and you start to live through energies like they are real, and you will feel the real feelings, you will feel them mentally and emotionally. I was saying yesterday, you know, like when you find yourself in fetal position, I found myself in fetal position, fighting these energies and these entities that wanted my mind, wanted my mental and emotional energy, wanted me to invest my belief in them again. And I refused. I refused because that's not my reality, and I refused because I'm starving that timeline for myself, but also for the collective. You get what I'm saying? I'm starving it. It no longer can be resurrected through me, because I refuse to give it the energy it needs to stay alive. And that's what a timeline collapse is. So when many timelines are collapsing, the best thing you can do is stand in your power and your truth and maintain how far you've already come. Okay? And so then the timeline jumping occurs when you are comfortable enough, confident enough in where you're going and what you are worthy of and what you deserve to be able to live like that. That's what timeline jumping is. So let me explain this to you as an example. So with these, in the spiritual community, the law of attraction people, love and light people, love to make you feel at times as if you're not constantly or able to manifest something like this, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you, or you're out of favor with the universe, and that's bullshit. That's another one of the matrix trauma programs that works its way through religion and spirituality to keep you trapped in shame so that you're not able to do those things that are actually, your birthright and who you fucking are. You're able to timeline jump. The only reason you're not able to get to where you want to be and sustain it is because of the densities that keep you from that. So if you're here and you want to get here, you must collapse all the densities that keep you from getting there. And the densities that keep you from getting there will always be your own wounding. It will be the things that keep you from believing that being there is possible. And even if you get there, you must sustain that to go to the next level. And what will keep you from sustaining that will again be your woundedness. It will be, I'm not worthy of being here. I don't deserve to be here. How did I get here? How am I going to be able to continue to sustain it? All of these worries, fears, anxieties, doubt put you in a lower vibration where the timeline you've jumped to requires a higher frequency for it to be maintained. So I'll give you an example of this. Back in 2020, I began another YouTube channel, and I began it for fun during the lockdown. I had just begun doing tarot for other people, and I said, let me start doing collective readings. Let me make the most of my lockdown time. And I was, getting into my creativity now. I didn't know anything about the resistance that was out there. I just knew, I can do this. And I'm on a twin flame journey. And it seemed like that's what everyone was doing. Who was on a twin flame journey. Let me start a channel. So I did. And within a couple of weeks, my channel took off. And I had a video go viral. It was a Virgo video. And my channel became very much Virgo-centric. But I was not able to maintain I was not able to maintain the frequency that was required for the expansion of that channel. And the reason I wasn't able to do that was a few things. For one thing, of course, all of a sudden I started getting attacked from every angle. And I didn't know that. I didn't know I was being attacked. I didn't have the confidence to know how to handle myself in attacks. I sunk into despair, into self-doubt, into all of those lower vibrational energies that could not support and sustain the growth that I had begun. What we're playing here with timeline jumping and sustaining an energy, what we're playing with here is vibrations and frequencies. Okay? When you are able to hold something wider, like an expansive energy, and it doesn't matter what you want to expand in, whether you want to expand in being seen, or you want to expand in the amount of money you make. Anytime you seek to expand yourself from the place that you are, you must have the frequency, you must establish the frequency to support that new expansive energy. So it's easy to begin it because it's easy to tune into a vibration, but it's hard to establish that vibration and turn it into a frequency, which creates the static energy or the foundation through which the vibration becomes stabilized. And you need that in order to not only timeline jump, but to sustain where you're going and to continue going higher. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So every time you timeline jump, there's a lot of going back and forth, stabilizing those energies, because staying here when you've come from here requires that you align now your mental and your emotional energies and truth to stay here too. And the minute you climb from a lower place, where you climb up into a more expansive energy, let's put it there. When you climb up into a more expansive energy, you're going to have to deal with all of the densities that kept you out of there to begin with. Either you're going to deal with them on your way up, or you're going to get there and all of those densities are going to come in at once to see, are you really ready to stand and hold your ground at this level? I hope that makes sense. Okay? So, you are constantly making decisions as to what timeline you are opening and sustaining or moving to in accordance with how you think and how you feel. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie, that Gwyneth Paltrow movie, Sliding Doors, where there are like congruent timelines that are played out through the movie. One timeline shows you what happened when she made the train to work in the morning, and the other story shows you what happened when she missed the train to work in the morning. When she missed the train to work in the morning, she went home and found her boyfriend shagging someone. Okay? When she got the train, she didn't realize he was cheating on her. But because eventually, we do get to where we need to go and where we need to be and what we need to find out. It's just how quickly are we going to get there, based upon our own decisions and circumstances in life. And in this scenario, she did eventually, in the other timeline where she got the train, she did find out he was cheating on her. It was just a little bit later. So we are constantly playing that game of, if I go here, this is going to open up for me. If I think this is going to open up for me. And if you are very conscious and aware, you can actually see those things occurring. And maybe you've seen it and you didn't realize what it was. So for example, when I found myself pregnant again with my second child, my husband had walked out on myself and my daughter, and she was like barely 1, and then I found myself pregnant with our second child. Okay, so I ended up having 2 children under the age of 2, and I'd been left. It's not what I signed up for. I was married to this dude. I did not sign up to be a single mother. I had a lot of resentment and anger about that. And I didn't realize at the time that I was alchemizing a family wound, an ancestral wound that had been playing itself out through the women also, which only magnified the energy. And I would look at my daughter sometimes, and she's a Virgo, and she's highly defiant, okay, like highly defiant. And I would look at her, and I'd be pregnant, and just wanting her to acquiesce and do what the fuck it was I needed her to do. And there would be moments where, and I didn't always win these fights, and I'm talking about the internal fights. There were moments when I knew I was going to say or do something that was going to change the course of our relationship, and it was going to change it in a very negative way. And I had to pause and move back. And then there were moments where I wasn't able to control myself. You get what I'm saying? And I said the thing I shouldn't have said. And I had to apologize to her later. Okay? Now, I say this because those moments when I had the wherewithal to know, pull back, I opened a timeline. I broke a generational curse. So this was where I was getting my education on how to collapse and break curses, was through this experience. Because a lot of the behaviors I wanted to express towards her out of my bitterness, my anger, and my resentment were things that I had seen and I had lived through being done to me as a child. And I could see the thread, and I interrupted it. And I created another opportunity. And now my daughter and I were really close, you know, because it took a lot of me constantly. And it's not because I'm perfect. There are many times I didn't do that. You get what I'm saying? But one thing I will pride myself on as a parent is that anytime I have, I have offended my children, or I have acted in ways that hurt them, especially emotionally, I will always come back and apologize. Because perfection, like as parents, perfection doesn't exist. It doesn't. I still have those moments. The collapsing of these timelines was a perfect thing. I went off on my son one day, and I had to go back with my tail between my legs, and I had to apologize to him. And I have to teach my children also, that it's okay for us to make mistakes, but it's also not okay for us to accept people and their bad behavior, including me. You get what I'm saying? So there is always this opportunity, and this is where I began to learn how much I had lived through so much trauma as a child, was when I became a mother and I realized I had to start making other choices. And in making those other choices, you begin to timeline jump. And so now I have an amazing relationship with both my children. We're very, open and real with one another. And that's because I had to not only make those decisions, but I also had to collapse a lot of the stories and the narratives that I had been taught were the way you parent children that were actually producing trauma. So remember I said to you in the beginning that timelines are what keeps cycles alive. And if we put the energy towards it, we keep that timeline alive and circulating. That's what a generational curse is. We continue generational trauma and generational curses, quote unquote, when we take on the traditions and the mindsets that we've been parented and grandparented through that have produced trauma in our own realities. And instead of alchemizing and interrupting those energies, we pass them on to our children. We pass them on sometimes consciously because we can't be bothered, and we low-key have this self-hatred. And if you have self-hatred, you do have hatred towards your children. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. This is why we deal with ourselves. Because anything you feel towards yourself, you will feel towards your children. And this is what parenting is here to, like on a soul journey, is here to help us really deal with those wounds. Parenting will make you do that if you are up to being real and transparent with yourself, because how can you hate any aspect of yourself? How, like for me even, you know, like with my ex walking out on me, and he also was abusive, right? And I've written about this on my Substack. And I had to learn how to find all of the beauty in him again. Because if I didn't find it in him, when I looked at my children, I would see him and I would reject them. And I knew I couldn't do that. So I had to find the strength in myself to reconnect with his beauty and his value. And it took me a while, but I got there. And now I have no animosity towards him. I really don't, because I can't hold that in my heart and say I love my children. I just can't. Because when I look at them, I see him. And when I look at them and I see those beautiful parts of him, I call it out in them and I tell them that. And when I see those parts where I know it could lead them down a path that he's been down too, in love and in peace, I come to them and I share with them what I'm seeing, and I explain to them why it's a concern. Because we are constantly either recreating old energies or collapsing them to enter into new ones. And that is all that timeline jumping is. And this is what I do when I work with people one-to-one a lot of the time, is everyone's trying to get to the next level, no matter where that might be in your life. And if you're trying to get somewhere, there's a reason you're not there yet. So how can we facilitate in getting you there? Okay, how can we get you to this place? How can we get you to a place where we collapse the densities, we clear the energies, I help you to become stable in a new frequency. That's what we're doing at every level when we're healing. That's what we're doing. That's why I work with herbs. That's why we work with ritual, because it's ritual or repetition that creates timelines that become established, for better or for worse. So, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to end this talk on the timeline jumping and collapsing. Right now in Ascension, you are dealing with the ability to quote-unquote timeline jump very quickly. And the reason you are able to timeline jump very quickly is because of all of the collapsing of the old timelines. But if you're not able to find your feet in the midst of the craziness, then it can take you under. So right now, our individual timelines that supported trauma are collapsing because the collective ones are collapsing. So we're living through right now like a barrage of personal timelines collapsing because the collective timelines are collapsing. I hope that makes sense. And so in the midst of that, you are like able to surf and catch a wave, kind of, you know, and you're able to do it at a faster rate because the things that would block you from doing that before, they no longer really exist. They exist in your mind, they exist in your experience, they exist in that visceral response that comes up when you want to move forward. But in terms of the timeline that would have supported and established the block, it's not there anymore. So you may have noticed that when these energies, like the spells especially, come into your fields, they cannot stick because the foundational energy that allowed them once upon a time to stay there is not there anymore. And so it's relying upon you to create a brand new foundation upon which it can still live through you. This is where we reject these energies that are not in alignment with our truth. And when I was meditating before I came on here, I was channeling a message. I was seeing that new foundations are being set in accordance with our heart frequency right now. And I feel like that's something that's occurring as we get closer and closer to this full moon in Libra, which will be the first eclipse of the year. Our ability to clear our own hearts of the trauma and the stories that connected us to the timelines that need to collapse because they promote our further re-traumatization, our ability to completely disconnect from those energies, it's creating a new foundation energetically. It's creating a new frequency in your root chakra. It is creating a new frequency in the earth's root energies. Okay, so that was another message that was coming through today. So, whew. I'm feeling very drawn to this deck. Oh, there's two decks here. Maybe we'll go into both of them. Can I get all the cards from this? Hold on 1 second. I got one card here. I forget the name of this deck. It's a Colette Baron Reed deck. I think it's like it's called like 7 Energies or something. I forget what it's called. It was a gift from one of you guys last year. I think it's called like the 7 Energies or something. I don't know. But it's a Colette Baron Reed deck. That's all I do know. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, Awakening Genius. Awakening Genius, number 29. Number 29. So this is interesting because for one thing, we are in February and we have 2 more weeks of February left, and this year is 1644 on my clock. This year is a leap year, right? So there are 29 days in this year. So there's something significant that is occurring as this month closes up that is to do with setting the foundations for reconnecting to your genius. And this word genius, my guides have been opening it up to me a little bit more. You know how like in the Matrix we say genius is like someone who's really super smart, right? But the word genius has the prefix gene, G-E-N, in it, which is often connected to genes, you know, genetics, generations. It's all based upon that kind of connection and theme. And what I've been getting more about this genius energy, it's to do with the DNA activations that are occurring that are putting us back into alignment with some of the so-called junk DNA that allows us to connect with what the Matrix would call our supernatural gifts and abilities. There's a lot of gifts, abilities, powers that are being restored right now through these really chaotic windows of timelines collapsing, because the old timelines, the timelines that supported the trauma, couldn't support your genius. And so these old timelines must collapse in order for these new foundations that support your genius to be established. Okay, so that's interesting. We have the Spirit of Gratitude. This is the number 43 card, okay? 4 plus 3 is the Emperor and the Empress. This is the union of energies, but the 4 plus 3 is also the Chariot. It's 7, but more importantly, the 4 plus 3 is a 7. And I keep on seeing a 7 and 777 everywhere past few weeks. 7 speak of divine alignment. It speaks of order. 7 is connected to, planetarily speaking, it's one of the numbers of Saturn. When you think about it, in the old chakra system, there were 7 chakras, right? 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 notes of music, 7 days of the week. 7 is a number that brings us back into alignment and order. Okay, so this is showing me that what you need to be doing, what I need to be doing in order to enforce the establishment of these foundations that support our genius, and therefore the timelines that will be established from that foundation. What we need to be doing is to be in gratitude. And when I say gratitude, I'm not talking about like, oh, be grateful for everything you have, and that's important, yes, but that can also be a little bit patronizing and a little bit it's matrixy, because it sometimes causes people to bypass their pain. You know, it's like, your pain's not important, be thankful you have a roof over your head. And yes, that's very, very true, it is. But it's not okay to bypass the pain that we feel because of the other losses that we go through, right? So the gratitude, I say all that because the gratitude I'm tuning into is to do with who the fuck you are. Fall in love with yourself right now. Fall in love with how far you've come, even if you can't yet fully connect with who you actually are. Fall in love with the parts of yourself that you've recovered from the trauma. Fall in love with the parts of yourself that went into the rubble to pull yourself out of the craziness. Fall in love with the warrior in you that didn't give up. Fall in love with the wounded child that has had to endure, and that you've come back into contact with, and you're giving that inner child what was not given to them in order to feel safe. Fall in love with all of those aspects of yourself. That is a form of gratitude also. You know what I mean? So this is important right now. Like just yesterday in the Daily Alchemy, and today's Daily Alchemy was talking about that too, and it's been coming through for a while, this very powerful Venusian energy. And as I say that, I think about how tomorrow, Friday, the day of Venus, Friday, February the 16th, Venus is moving into Aquarius. So Venus will be moving into Aquarius at 0 degrees, meeting Pluto that is still chilling in Aquarius at 0 degrees, and meeting Mars, because Mars has just moved into Aquarius on its day, on Tuesday, 2 days ago, and entered at 0 degrees, and tomorrow I believe will be at 2 degrees as Venus enters Aquarius. Okay, so there's a grand balancing that is happening energetically for us to be able to live in beauty again. And for as long as we're holding on to the fears and the fear frequencies that had us believing that wasn't possible, or the bottom is going to drop, we are not able to establish the foundation that is necessary to build the new timelines where this beauty is supported. So the way you bring the beauty forth is by living in beauty and trusting that that is enough. And in doing that, you are supported in everything you need. Not only everything you need, but everything you desire will be provided for you. And when I say desire, I'm talking about everything that your soul has always longed for. A lot of us have been chasing things because in the matrix we've been taught that those are emblems of success, or those are things that are going to make us happy. We get there, we achieve it, and we find out that's not the case. But what's occurring now is such deep soul alignment to allow you to connect with those things, those aspects, those people, those circumstances that actually bring you a deeper and a more meaningful satisfaction, because it's in alignment with your soul's truth. And you get there by basking in beauty. Yes? Going into this Rebecca candle deck. I think it's called Workers of the Light. I forget the name of it. It's something of the light. I just don't remember. It's one of her original decks, maybe her second or third. It's a very popular starseed deck. Share your voice. Come out of the cave. Persecution, expression. I was going through something this past weekend. One of those moments that I was talking about in this video and yesterday where, you're curled up in fetal position trying to fight energies that are no longer part of your reality, and they're collapsing. And this voice, and it's not this voice, it's my true voice, began to rise in me, and it told me who I am. It gave me one of my identities. It said, you are so-and-so, rise and shine. And I started to repeat that internally. I am so-and-so, it's time to rise and shine. I am, it's time to rise and shine. And as I started to say that, and I wasn't saying this because I expected to have an effect, but as I said that thing that had been trying to pull me under broke instantly. I mean instantly. And this is where I learned, or not where I learned, but this is where the lesson was fortified in me that I shared with you at the end of yesterday's video, is that when you begin to speak to these energies from your heart about the truth of who you are in your power, they must flee because they cannot reside in the truth. They cannot. So, share your voice, come out of the cave, persecution, expression. On the one hand, it's speaking about your voice is your truth. It's your throat chakra. It's your blueprint, your divine blueprint. I broke that down in yesterday's video if you want to hear more about that energy. The more you tune into the truth of who you are right now, this is what's important. This is what breaks those old persecution stories, the true expression of yourself to yourself, first and foremost, but also in the world. A lot of you have been hiding. You've been hiding out of fear. I've been hiding too. I've been doing it too. Being on YouTube became too much for a season. And it's fine. You got to go into hermit mode because you got to deal with yourself and get your own energy right. Absolutely. And then there's a time to rise. And that's what that voice was saying. Rise and shine. It's enough. Rise and fucking shine. It's time. And before I did anything externally, I was just speaking that internally. And it broke the energy, the cycle, the timeline, the hold of the entity that wanted to drag me into another cycle of suffering. I refused. I did not consent to falling into claiming a reality or an identity that doesn't match my truth for that energy, entity, cycle, or pattern to continue to live. Fuck that. Hey, don't dim to fit in. Don't dim to fit in. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in? And here's the thing, because some of y'all been in hermit mode for a minute, so you're like, don't dim to fit in. I don't dim my light because I'm not even around fucking people. This is internal. This is that battle I'm talking about internally. You know, when that energy wants you to surrender to it and say, oh yes, this is my lot in life. I will never be this. I am too this to do that. I'm too old. I'm not popular enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. All of those fucking lack spells that want to, seep into your energy based upon the fact that they've lived there a really fucking long time and you've been creating timelines from that place because you didn't know any better and you were up against so much shit and you weren't aware. This is what this is talking about. That voice that rose in me that said rise and shine was that voice that said stop pretending that you're not more powerful than this energy that's trying to usurp your truth. There's an energy, an entity, whatever the fuck you want to call it. There's something foreign, an alien. And I'm not talking about, like aliens, but you get what I'm saying, an alien energy that's trying to tell you something about you that's not fucking true, and you've fallen for it before, and you've seen what it's produced. What's going to happen if this time around you tell that energy who you are in truth, even if in that moment you don't feel it or see it? What happens? That's what that voice was saying. And yeah, in the moment, I didn't know that. Like, in retrospect, I can be like, yeah, that's what you were doing, because I just kind of went along with it. You know? And the minute I started to say who I am, my truth, my divine truth, that energy that was trying to take me under, it fled like it hadn't even been there, instantly. Because I refused to acquiesce to its lie. And it couldn't live in my truth. It could only live and grow and establish itself in a lie. I had to believe the lie about myself. I had to grab a hold of it and invest energy into it. And then I had to start living as if I believed it for that entity to survive, that energy and cycle and timeline to have life. Fuck that life. Fuck that timeline, rather. Fuck that entity. Fuck that cycle. Fuck that story. Fuck that narrative. I'm the fucking author of my truth. And I don't let imposter energies try to narrate my fucking story. And neither should you. So don't dim to fit in. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in? And for some of you, this is to do with other people. Where are you still feeling intimidated or watering yourself down because you think you're too much? If you are too much to somebody, fine, then let them show their asses and go. I'm so over this shit. Like, I was feeling this yesterday. Like, there was a situation with somebody that came up, and I was just like, I started to feel these things like, what if, they don't like me because yada, yada, yada. And I said, fuck a bunch of that. If they don't like me because of that, then somebody else will. Next. We done. We're done changing. We're done morphing. We're done dimming and diluting. We're done hiding. Fuck that. Get on board with who I am, where I am, love the fuck out of me for who the fuck I am, appreciate me in all of my glory and all of my flaws, or keep it the fuck moving. Simple as that. So don't dim to fit in. Okay? Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to get off my soapbox. Oh boy, it's fun to be back, and I'm glad I took some time off, because otherwise I would have been pushing myself and it would not have been fun and it would not have been authentic. So, I hope that these messages, this message, this guidance, these teachings have helped you to understand things on a more practical level. I hope that my words and the way I've articulated these things, as well as the channeled messages, have helped to break you out of a vibration or a frequency to take you higher into the next level. I hope that you leave feeling more assured in yourself, your truth, and your beauty. And I hope that you leave feeling more inspired and more in your own energy. Okay? So, that's it for today. If you would like to work with me one-to-one, get a reading, tarot astrology report or reading, my one-to-one soul recovery sessions, you can find out all of that on my website, solarah.info. If you'd like to join me over on Substack, you can do so at the link. All the links will be in the description box below. It is substack.com/@Solarah. If you would like to donate to me, to the channel, to my growth, to my ability to continue to show up and do what it is I came here to do, you can do so through Ko-Fi or PayPal. That's in the description box below. If you would like to purchase any of my decrees or manuals, you can do that also through the Ko-Fi shop. That will also be linked below. Yeah, that's it. I'm sending you so much love, joy, peace, bliss. Every beautiful thing that you need to find your own perfect balance that connects you with your divine timelines, and that are your birthright. Yes, so I will see you again soon. Until next time, be well.